Since Shadowkeep, the introduction of champions I've found to be really cool, and I really like them, but I've always found them a little bit problematic. I'm always getting my weapons fiddled up and I drop them and use the wrong ones and end up being killed by them or getting caught in a really weird loop whereby I just can't kill them. So what I've done is I put together a little guide for Yao, and indeed me, to help you out in figuring out the best way to kill the various different types of champions. The Barrier Champion, the Overload Champion, and the Unstoppable Champion. So let's go and have a look. Now the first port of call is of course the artefact, because in every season this is where we get the mods that we can use to kill the various champions. The first row is always populated with the champion killing mods. Anti-barrier for barrier champions, we've got the overload rounds for the overload champions, and we've got the unstoppable rounds for the unstoppable champions. Now then, the unstoppable goes on hand cannons this season. The overload rounds we can see here that are on the auto rifles and the SMGs, but I think that's pretty bloody useless, to be perfectly honest. I prefer to put the overload rounds on the hand cannons, and I shall show you why a little bit later on. And finally, we've got the anti-barrier rounds, which are either on sidearms or SMGs. I use it on the SMGs, particularly the Recluse or something which spits out a lot of damage in a very sharpish fashion, because you've got a small window in which to use the anti-barrier rounds, but I'll show you that in a minute. So what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to do a daily bunker buster. Bombs are ready, sir. Run. That was from Command & Conquer Generals. I love that game. To show you how these different odds and sods work. Hello, Vex. Well, the weapons I'm using for the hand cannon in my primary slot, I'm using my Better Devils, although you can use whichever you wish. I'm using that as the overload rounds. And then in the energy slot, I'm using my Recluse to have the anti-barrier on it, because I prefer the anti-barrier SMG. And then also I've got my Luna's Howl there in reserve for any unstoppable champions I may come across. So you've got to be able to switch in between all three, really, so make sure they're accessible. And then finally, I've got the Xenophage in my heavy slot, solely because it dishes so much damage. Of course, you could use your Whisper if you have that, or indeed any other damage-dealing thing that you may like to use. But if you can get your hands on the Xenophage, watch my video if you want to know how to get it. Or Whisper of the Worm. Hang on, watch my video if you want to be able to get it. Use either of those two, or indeed anything you want. Maybe a linear fusion, because you're going to be dealing damage from a bit of distance, really, as well, with some of these guys. So what we'll do, we'll go in and have a little look and see which champion we come across first. Okay, so here we have an Overload Minotaur who's chucking death at me, and they do run at you quite a bit, the swines, so you've got to be careful. But line up, get a good run up from them, and then start emptying your clip into them, and then it will say, you have disrupted a champion. Flick to your heavy, induce more. Flick back to your overload rounds, and empty a few in, there we are, disrupted again. In we go, 1, 2, excellent, and 3, and that's it. And they are actually one of the more difficult champions, although depending on the race of the champion, they do act in a different way, of course. Okay, so here we have an Overload Champion again, but this one is a Fallen Captain, and they teleport everywhere, which makes them the most difficult ones, and they lob loads of that stuff at you. So there you go. Disrupted. Straight to Xenophage, or whatever is you're choosing. Disruption's gone. Keep on emptying. They'll kill you quick. See? Like that. They'll kill you quick. So you've got to be very careful. Remember, stagger with your gun. What? There's a noise, and hit him with the big stuff. If you get a finishing move in, use it thusly. You can generally do it in one go. Okay, so the next one we're going to have a look at are anti-barrier champions. And here we can see an anti-barrier servitor who's a massive pain in the arse. Ow! Now, the worst thing about these anti-barrier servitors is they shield enemies nearby, as you can see here. Look. They're shielding a few gits there. Now, obviously, you've got to take him out before you can attack the gits. This is something that you should really pay attention to. In order for an anti-barrier attack to be successful, you first of all have to inflict enough damage for him to want to, or her, sexist, recharge its shields. This one's a total pain in the ass because he always backs up that little runway there. I'm dead again. So first things first, we need to inflict damage on him. Use there we are, the damage is going down. Now once it gets down to about 2/3 or so, you'll see him pop his shield like that. Now you have to take the shield down to stagger him all in one go, and then he's staggered, and then you can inflict more damage on him like that. And now he's going to put his shield back up again. Oh no, he's not. I killed him. But that's how you do it. Okay, so we have another barrier champion here, so we need to administer kick-ins, and then after kick-ins have been administered, suck his shield dry, missus. Come on. There, empty into him. Oh no, reloading. Bad timing there, dear boy. So see, this is how you can get into trouble. By not being prepared. Don't do what I just did, because you find yourself in a bit of a pain. So, let's administer kick-ins with a different weapon, so I'm not... There we are, full clip. Bang, 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 bang. Staggered, flick to big gun, and kill. Yes, 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 yes! So there you go. That was a barrier knight, don't you know? Very interesting. And the last champion we need to have a look at is the unstoppable champion. This one we're going to have a look at is an ogre, and they can be rather aggressive. There we go. So we have an unstoppable ogre. There we go. We've got an unstoppable shot. Boom. Hold it there, pal. Unstoppable shot all ready to go. Now it's not. You get the visual flare on the gun to show that the unstoppable is active. Just gotta hold it until we get the... Don't panic! There you go. He's had his chips. Quite a long time to reload. Hold. Boom. And they're quite staggered for a long time, really. It's not so bad. They are quite scary in lots of ways. But just get it ready and go. And then, of course... Let's do it next time. Wait for him to come around again. Every time you've got an unstoppable shot, he's staggered. And then take him out. And there we have it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now going to look at the old artefact and see what we've got that could help us in the champion front. So obviously we've got the first row of stuff. But then the next thing we've got, which is of interest, we've got the Disrupting Blade. Now this is strong against overload champions. If you do a heavy attack on them, you can stagger them. There's a pretty good chance that you can actually stagger them when you strike them with it. So that's quite a handy one to do if you're using a sword as a heavy, which of course is very, very useful. Another thing that you need to remember, and this is about mods in general, is that anything that came before Forsaken, you can't actually add mods to it. So if you wanted to be able to add the Overload mod to a sword, it has to have come either after Forsaken or as part of the doodads after it. So if, for example, you try and go and do one here, which is the Curse of Osiris, you haven't got that. You can just masterwork it, which gives you extra orbs on multi-kills. They're a standard and a set of mods, but if you do go and have a look at, you see you've got a Warmind one there, but if we go here to the Steel Sibyl, then we go in there, that's got a Forsaken logo on in the corner, and that means you can stick in any of the new mods. Now that empty socket just randomly generates one of the stats that you can upgrade here, but the second one will show you can put in, look, there we go, we've got a Warmind mod there that we can stick in. So that's handy to remember, Forsaken and onwards. So there's a Forsaken logo there, anything from Season of Opulence or anything from Shadowkeep, and there we go. Honor's Edge is the legendary sword that's been dropping during the Season of the Worthy, which I've been using here. So you can see I've stuck it in my Disrupting Blade here against Overload champions, so let's just go and see how effective it is. And if it's as good as the hand cannon. I don't know, you got to get up close and personal, chance of being stomped to death. We all hate stomp mechanics, don't we? Yes. So, you know, hand cannon with Overload on is probably the better call, and then using a heavy which can administer swift kickings. This technically could do both, but you might have to be lucky to get that sorted. Let's check. Okay, so here we go, administering kick-ins to aforementioned... Oh, okay, sword kick-ins, take 5. Ow. Now it is said that the fully charged heavy hit will stagger them, but see, it's really hard because they teleport, which is why I wouldn't really recommend the Overload sword. Come on then. Come on, you bag. My God. Ow! I stubbed my toe then. So it is more tricky to get the sword in. Look at him, what a shit and shove it. Now I consider myself an average Destiny player, and of course my sword skills aren't up to snuff. Can't even get close to hit him. So there you have it. That's why I wouldn't bother using Overload Sword. It's a pain in the ass. Some of the other mods that come in very handy is surge detonators, not detectors. Now these are grenades, arc grenades that will stagger Overload champions. I haven't got it on my Titan, but I do have it on my Hunter. So let's have a little look and see what they do. A grenade attached, Bosch, staggered, lovely. Very, very useful actually, particularly if you can get 2 grenades or something like that. The next one we've got, which I have used occasionally, is Hammer of the Warmind. So Warmind cell detonation will allow you to disrupt unstoppable and overload champions. So that's pretty handy. And also we've got here solar melee abilities will stagger unshielded combatants, and it's strong against unstoppable champions. That's called the Inferno Whip. There's more pros than cons with this one. The con is that it can only be put into a chest piece of armor, so that can cause a problem if you're using a chest piece with exotic perks that double up on melee attacks. But it is only 2 energy cost to install, plus you can use it with a ranged melee like my Hunter's throwing knives here, and it is very effective, as you can see. I love stopping those unstoppable champions in their tracks. It's great. They're so cocky, aren't they? Anyway, I hope you found this information very useful, and indeed, if you are enjoying my videos, please drop us a subscribe. That would be very, very handy, and a like in the doodahs, or even leave me a comment, you know, something along the lines of, I found that useful or utterly useless. Either way, it's very handy for me to know these things. Ooh, and take a look at some of these other videos here. You might find them interesting. Goodbye, my lovelies.